Hello, everyone. Apologies, I'm in Thailand traveling at the moment, and it is unfortunately lawn mowing day, so the sound is a little. But I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Eric Jong. I'm a contemporary artist. I work with novel technologies, and I'm mostly concerned with making works around empathy fatigue, engagement with media practices through journalism, and novel ways of seeing through computational vision or through optical illusions. Mostly that work is presented in a projection format or in some kind of sculptural installation format. So I was really excited to be part of this project and try out Lovable and try making some little project spaces, I guess. I just want to share what I've been working on over the last day or so. So I'm going to switch over and do a little screen share so you hopefully won't have to stare at this the whole time that I'm talking, but you will probably hear a little bit of lawnmower. So let's have a look. This is from an idea just that started from a conversation with an old colleague of mine where I used to work at the University of Melbourne. We were both working at the Melbourne Data Analytics platform. We talked about making something like this as potentially an app where you can use just a simple slider to filter out news stories according to their political leanings. So to the left and to the right of the political spectrum, and then have these articles come through with extra contextual information, giving their kind of political positioning, I guess parent company, and then also the accuracy of the content of these articles. So this is produced. These metrics are produced through filters and sort of checking against websites like Snopes and other kind of third-party independent fact-checking platforms. This was pretty quick. I didn't really work with this very much, but it was pretty surprising how quickly prototyping can actually happen. I'm not sure exactly how many prompts I use, not many, and just really sort of put it together very quickly as a first sort of test to see what I could do. And I was really impressed by how quickly the API working out all that kind of stuff was. So yeah, really quite a bit of fun. This is the second website or little thing that I made with Lovable. I was just thinking about what was possible with using some kind of generative program or an integrated generative image program. So something like Sora, or just using and sort of talking about as well a little bit of the costs of doing these things. I'm fully aware of the irony of participating to explain or criticize, participating probably to criticize more so. So here, what we're doing is we're looking at what has been decided by Lovable as being the classical masterpieces that we're then going to generate a facsimile of. So an AI generated facsimile from the original as reference, which comes up side by side, and then gives them a little bit of context as well. And then here gives a bit of an environmental impact, or a little bit of information about the environmental impact. I'm not sure actually how accurate this was. This was more of again, a little test, very, very quick prototyping to go through. But yeah, I was just sort of having a look to see what was possible, having a kind of interactive graph, pulling, making something where it pulls you to a new screen. And I'd imagine this is something for my usage that would sit possibly on a device in a gallery space as part of a small part of a larger exhibition, something like that. But yeah, it was interesting to see how much of this was propagated by Lovable as well. And again, just like quite impressed about how quickly it was able to put something together. This would take me a lot of time to put together if I was prototyping, just as a kind of initial touch point to talk about a project. So from that, moved on to trying something which I was really interested in, which was using the camera in my device. So let's see how this goes with the recording. Hello. So what I was wanting to do here is explore a little bit of the hand tracking that is possible. I didn't have to do anything with this. I just kind of requested it through the chat. And I've always been really interested in doing kind of responsive works and sort of camera, installations in galleries and stuff where it was interactive. I've done a little bit of work with motion capture for my own arts practice and worked around these kind of interactive tools as well. This was by far the easiest, just by miles, the easiest integration that I've done. Previously, what I've usually been working with is something like Touch Designer amongst a whole suite of other tools, working with technicians. This was a really fun way to just get something going. I'm currently working on a project with a lion dance team in Melbourne, and I would foresee something like this again as part of a larger exhibition, as some kind of interactive small element as part of a larger exhibition with an interactive element. As one quick criticism, and I'm sure that there is a lot of ways to work through this, but this is not exactly the representation of a lion dance that I was going for. However, it is pretty great. You know, it's responsive. The mouth opens and closes when you work with it. I just quickly exit this performance. I think it propagated all these instructions really quickly. This I probably started to spend a little bit more time on. I've just published the version that was working, and then was kind of workshopping a few things later to improve that little lion dance animation. But yeah, pretty happy with that, and pretty impressed at how, well, extremely impressed actually at how quickly it got the motion tracking working. Okay, so then, because I was thinking about motion tracking and still interested in APIs, I ended up working on next was setting up this little project where this window here is pulling a live camera feed. So this is a random live camera feed that refreshes, I think, every 20 seconds or something like that. And then I asked Lovable to make a drawing, and for the drawing use different points of motion, and where those points of motion are happening, then just to draw like a little join the dots kind of thing. Some of the cameras are more useful than others for that. So the one that we're looking at for the moment, for example, is at nighttime. So there's probably less obvious things for us to look at, as we can kind of see here as it changes over to another nighttime one. But you know, it's pretty fun to really quickly get a result that's quite complex actually out of this. So working with live cameras is something that I've done before in the past, especially for a lot of projection work that I've done. And this is pretty cool to be able to flesh out or sketch out an idea actually of something that I've been wanting to do for a while. So having the machine eye analyze something, create some kind of drawing. I guess if I was to work this into an exhibition, I'd probably be looking at these generated artworks here on the right hand side, and then pull this into the real world in a different way. So the results of this as well that I was really interested in is once this is finished drawing, and this is quite long, I don't know why I made this 5 minutes, but once this is finished drawing, it adds these images to a gallery. So what I was interested in was lots of people making drawings, creating a sort of gallery of lots of people's input, and then in the gallery showing you screenshots of each of the camera feeds that it's used, so you get some kind of context for this seemingly quite abstract work of art that is being generated, which, you know, is like something in the line, and the way that it's connecting the line is talking about movement, and this kind of randomized movement and sort of digital movement around the world through cameras, and the watching as well, and the layers of watching is what I was really interested in. So this was a pretty fun one to work on. I was really into this one. Used a couple of quite a few prompts to work through this as well. What I was really interested in is getting this live feed working. There were a few hurdles to that, but I was really pleased that this was actually able to pull the API successfully into live feed cameras. So yeah, really cool. I mean, initially I was really interested in the public CCTV and traffic cameras that seemingly were an option as well. So tried that, but without as much success as these other publicly accessible feeds. Previously, I've done a big work with looking at the Internet of Things and unsecured webcams, which I access through Shodan. This is a nice one. So yeah, this is like an extension or an iteration of some works that I've already been doing with my arts practice, and it was, again, really cool just to sketch something out very quickly. So thinking about drawing and now trying something with the live camera feeds like that last project, but maybe trying to do something a little more aesthetic. and thinking about the generating that I was doing with the earlier project, with talking about the kind of water and electricity usage, I ended up making this small project, which is in the kind of historical context, or the historical movement of plein air artists who were the first artists who were able to go out into nature and paint from nature. So the idea here is to do the same thing, but in the digital sense. So taking these live camera feeds here, which are kind of randomized, taking small features from each one of those, and then adding them together to compose this final painting. So you can kind of see here which sections are corresponding to which, and then creating something in the aesthetic and in the style of the early plein air artists. So it was really fun to put this one together. I wanted to have these as live camera feeds and reference again something that I was reaching for with the last project of creating a gallery, having you be able to explore those things. This one was probably something that I worked on quite a lot more, and had a really fun time with doing it. I sort of got this working with some live cameras. I kind of ran out of time on my end, just trying to finish everything in one day and just play around with it. I was pretty happy to have done lots of different things just in one kind of sitting, essentially, and playing around with stuff. But I wasn't too worried about finishing things too much yet. So the gallery, for example, in this one, I didn't focus on getting working, but really, happy to have a play around and get it up to this stage even. This one is probably the one that I'm most happy with. So just a kind of finalization of all of the stuff that I'd been talking about exploring, with the exception of the political slider. So this is a weather cloud generator. What I was most interested in is ending up with an actual 3D object rather than a two-dimensional image like I had been working with. So what's happening here is that we're getting freely accessible information from weather stations here. These are changing every 20 seconds or so at different rates. The corresponding color here is corresponding to the geometry that's on the right-hand side with the cloud generator. And then what we're doing here, which we can also change here, is setting the initial dimensions or whatever it might be. And then we can generate a cloud from lots of different locations around the world. So just making a kind of impossible digital cloud by using weather information, everything digitally, existing in the digital world. Once this finishes generating, what we end up with as a three-dimensional object is also what I also was able to include was a little button that you can click to download this as an STL file, which means that you would be able to 3D print the cloud that's been generated as well. And again, once this is generated, just like the other projects, these objects would go into a gallery space. And so, the idea is to make a kind of digital sky where the users have made lots of different clouds, and then eventually they come together in a gallery space on this website and then form a kind of a digital sky of 3D objects. And you could click through and have a look at the ones that you like. You get information about where the weather systems had their information pulled from, and then you can 3D print the ones that you like, or 3D print your one, share them with people, whatever it may be. I think aesthetically was my favorite. I really had a good time working with these animations as well. It's very easy to be directive with these animations, and you can kind of see now that I get this download STL option. And then I ran out of credits because as you can probably imagine, I've been working, making lots and lots of different little things. So this was the version that I was the most happy with, but lots of tweaks after that as well. So I had a lot of fun actually working on this one. I had a good time putting it all together and just sort of sitting with it for some time. And again, just like really surprised about how easy it was. And yeah, it was really great. Okay, thanks for listening, and thank you for the opportunity to have a play around with Lovable as well and to present some works and try some stuff out. I had a really great time just iterating and prototyping some things of ideas that have been bouncing around for a while. Huge shout out to Katie. Thank you so much for facilitating and inviting me to be part of the project. This is very exciting technology. I'm excited to see what I can do with it and where it can go. And thanks again. Appreciate it.